Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jaya Krishna Rukmini Jaya Satyabhama Krishna Rukmini Jaya Satyabhama. Jaya Krishna Balaram Jaya Krishna Balaram Krishna Balaram Jaya Krishna Balaram. Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Gauranitai Gauranitai Jaya Gauranitai. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Prabhupada. Jai Mishnapad Paramahansa Parivrajakatarya Shtottara Sata Shri Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Mishnapad Paramahansa Parivrajakatarya Shtottara Sata Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasati Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Grantharaj Srimad-Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Shri Shri Krishna Rukmini Satyabhama Ki Jai. Shri Shri Krishna Balaram Ki Jai. Shri Shri Gaur Nitai Ki Jai. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad-Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 24, The Renunciation of Kardama Muni, Text number 11. Turn. Sabhajayan Vishuddhena Sabhajayan Vishuddhena Sabhajayan Vishuddhena Chetasa Tat Chikirshritam Chetasa Tat Chikirshritam Chetasa Tat Chikirshritam Prahrishyamanair Asubhihi Prahrishyamanair Asubhihi Prahrishyamanair Asubhihi Kardamam Cha Idam Abhyadhat Kardamam Chedam Abhyadhat Kardamam Chedam Abhyadhat Sabhajayan Vishuddhena Chetasa Tachikirshita Prahrishyamanairasubhihi Kardamam Chedam Abhyadhat Sabhajayan Vishuddhena Chetasa Tachikirshita Prahrishyamanairasubhihi Kardamam Chedam Abhyadhat. Sabhajayan, worshipping. Vishuddhena, pure. Chetasa, with a heart. Tat, of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Chikir Shritam, the intended activities. Prahrishyamanaihi, gladdened. Asubhihi, with senses. Kardamam, to Kardama Muni. Cha, and Devahuti. Idam, this. Abhyadhat, spoke. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. Translation. After worshipping the Supreme Lord with gladdened senses and a pure heart for his intended activities as an incarnation, Brahma spoke as follows to Kardama and Devahuti. Kindly repeat. Jai Krishna Rukmini Satyabhama Ki. Kindly repeat. After worshipping the Supreme Lord with gladdened senses and a pure heart for his intended activities as an incarnation, Brahma spoke as follows to Kardama and Devahuti. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. As explained in Bhagavad-gita, 4th chapter, anyone who understands the transcendental activities, the appearance and the disappearance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is to be considered liberated. Brahma, therefore, is a liberated soul. Although he is in charge of this material world, he is not exactly like the common living entity. Since he is liberated from the majority of the follies of the common living entities, he was in knowledge of the appearance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he therefore worshipped the Lord's activities, and with a glad heart he also praised Kardama Muni, because the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as Kapila, had appeared as his son. One who can become the father of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is certainly a great devotee. There is a verse spoken by a Brahmana in which he says that he does not know what the Vedas and what the Puranas are. But while others might be interested in the Vedas or Puranas, he is interested in Nanda Maharaj, who appeared as the father of Krishna. The Brahmana wanted to worship Nanda Maharaj because the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as a child, crawled in the yard of his house. These are some of the good sentiments of devotees. If a recognized devotee brings forth the Supreme Personality of Godhead as his son, how he should be praised. Brahma, therefore, not only worshipped the incarnation of Godhead Kapila, but also praised his so-called father Kardama Muni. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport. Om Ajnana-timirandhasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namavom Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langayate girim yat kripatamaham mande Shri Gurum Deenataranam. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he appeared 500 years back approximately. And after taking sannyas in 1510 AD, at the age of 26 years, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu shifted to Jagannath Puri. He stayed there for the next 24 years. So at 24 years of age, he took sannyas, and at next 24 years, he spent in Jagannath Puri. So while he was in Jagannath Puri, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also visited Vrindavan Dham, he visited Prayag, and he also undertook a journey to cover South India for 6 years. So during one of his visits to Prayag, there was one very ardent follower of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Vallabhacharya. This Vallabhacharya, he was a very ardent devotee of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to Prayag, Vallabhacharya was living on the banks of the rivers there. And he invited Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to his home. And he made Chaitanya Mahaprabhu stay at his home. He took very good care of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Vallabhacharya was a grihastha. Later on, of course, Vallabhacharya developed some feeling that he was not being respected amongst the devotees of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And so he left and he joined the Vishnu Swami sect. And later on he became a very prominent acharya in that sampradaya. So while Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was staying with Vallabhacharya in Prayag, what happened? A Brahmana from Bihar, from the region known as, today it is known as Tirhut. Tirhut consists, in those days also the division Tirhut used to be there. Today, if you look at the districts of Champaran, Saran, Darbhanga, so all of them constitute what is known as Tirhut. Even today, the division of Tirhut is there, but reorganized. Some of the districts are still there in Tirhut. Some new districts have been added. Old districts have been removed, like that. So in the olden times, Darbhanga, Muzaffarpur, Champaran, Saran, all these things put together used to be called Tirhut. So one Tirhutiya Brahmana, one Brahmana from this place, known as Raghupati Upadhyaya, came to visit Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Prayag. This Raghupati Upadhyaya was a great devotee of Lord Krishna. And when he heard that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is here, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Swayam Krishna himself, so he became very eager to meet Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and came to Vallabhacharya's home. Vallabhacharya also received him very nicely, and he organized for Raghupati Upadhyaya to meet Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So the moment Raghupati Upadhyaya saw Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he immediately offered his obeisances. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also blessed him, saying that Krishne Mati Rahu, that always may your mind be absorbed in Krishna, like this. So the Raghupati Upadhyaya, he was very pleased by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's blessings. And then after all the customary greetings, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked Raghupati Upadhyaya, who was famous as a scholar, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked Raghupati Upadhyaya, tell me something about Krishna. Raghupati Upadhyaya, being a scholar in Sanskrit, he had composed some verses glorifying Krishna. So he immediately recited a verse which he had composed in Sanskrit. Raghupati Upadhyaya said, Smritim apare shrutim itare bharatam anye bhajantu bhavabhitaha ahamiha nandam mande yasyalinde param brahma. Raghupati Upadhyaya said, Shrutim apare. Many people read the Smriti. Smriti Shastras composed of all the Puranas. Many people read the Smritis with the intention that they should get liberated from this material world. Bhava bhitaha. They are highly afraid of the material world and repeated birth and death within this material world. So to get liberated from this, they read all the Smritis, the Puranas. Smritim apare, Shrutim itare. Others who are very intellectually advanced, those who are on the path of Jnana Yoga, they read the Shrutis, the Upanishads, the Vedanta Sutras, with an idea again, Bhagavad-gita, because they don't want to again take birth within this material world. And then there are Bharatam, Anye. There are others who read Mahabharata. And regularly, every day they recite Mahabharata or Ramayana. Again, Bhava-bhitaha. They want to get out of this Bhava-sagara, this ocean of repeated birth and death. And so therefore, they worship or they study the Mahabharata and Ramayana for this. But this Raghupati Upadhyaya is saying, let all of them worship different things. As far as I am concerned, I am not interested in any of them. I am not interested in the Puranas. I am not interested in the Upanishads. I am not interested in the Vedanta Sutras. I am not interested in the Vedas. I am not interested in Mahabharata or Ramayana. I am not interested in any of these things. But at the same time, Bhava-bhita, I am not afraid of the getting repeated birth and death within this material world. Why? Because aham iha nandam mande, because I am constantly worshipping Nanda Maharaj. Now why this, if everybody is worshipping, somebody is worshipping the Puranas, somebody is studying the Puranas, somebody is studying the Vedas, Upanishads, and somebody is studying the Mahabharata, Ramayana and all these things, they become very advanced scholars in all these scriptures, and you are rejecting all of these and saying you want to worship Nanda Maharaj. Why? Are you not afraid of taking repeated birth and death within this material world? No, I am not afraid of taking repeated birth and death within this material world by worshipping Nanda Maharaj, because Yasyalinde Param Brahma. Because in the courtyard of Nanda Maharaj, the Parabrahma, the Supreme Absolute Truth, Krishna, crawled like an infant. So, therefore, if Krishna, the Supreme Absolute Truth, has to become a child and he has to crawl in the courtyard of Nanda Maharaj, then how much greater is Nanda Maharaj? And so, therefore, I simply worship Nanda Maharaj, and by worshipping Nanda Maharaj, I am freed of all fear of repeated birth and death within this material world. So when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu heard this, he was greatly pleased. And he asked Raghupati Upadhyaya to recite more verses. And Raghupati Upadhyaya also recited many verses. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was extremely pleased with him. So that is the verse that Prabhupada is mentioning in the purport, that this Brahmana, he wanted to worship Nanda Maharaj because the Supreme Personality of Godhead as a child crawled in the yard of his house. So the greatness of Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda Mai cannot be overestimated. Great personalities, great rishis, sages, they have all glorified Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda Mai because they became the parents of Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the Srimad-Bhagavatam, in the 10th canto, there is a description of a pastime of Krishna. Krishna once, while playing with his friends as a small child, he ate some dirt because Krishna wanted to taste the dust of Vrindavan, which is so highly glorified and which all Vaishnavas, devotees want to take on their heads, because the dust of Vrindavan has been traversed by the lotus feet of great Vaishnavas and the gopis. So Krishna wanted to taste that dust of Vrindavan, and he ate that Vraja Raja, the dust of Vrindavan. So his friends, they all went and complained to Yashoda Mai that Krishna has eaten dirt. So Yashoda Mai called Krishna and told him, have you eaten dirt? Why are you doing this? Am I not feeding you? Am I not giving you good food, milk, butter, and despite all these things you want to go and eat dirt? So Krishna said, no, I have not eaten any dirt. All my friends, they are telling lies. Because I told them today I will not play with them. My mother is calling, I have to go home. They became angry with me and they are therefore telling lies. So Yashoda Mai said, your friends may be telling lies, but your big brother, Balram, Dauji, he is also telling that you have eaten dirt. So Krishna said, no, nowadays Balram also has joined with my friends and he has also started lying. So Yasodama is telling, if you want, Krishna told, if you want, you look in my mouth and see if I have eaten dirt. Then Yasodama told, show, open your mouth, let me see. Immediately Krishna opened his mouth. And Yasodama looked into his mouth to see whether there is dirt within his mouth. But what did she see? She saw the entire cosmic manifestation, the entire universe with all its different aspects, the demigods, the devatas, the controlling deities, the different directions. She saw the entire cosmic manifestation and she became bewildered. What is this wonderful thing I am seeing? So Krishna did not want Yasodamai to become bewildered like that. He wanted her affection and love. So immediately Yogamaya covered Yasodamai's this transcendental vision. And Yasodamai started immediately, came back to her senses and she started thinking, oh, some ghost has attacked my child. What to do now? And she immediately started chanting all the names of Narayana and she started feeding Krishna her milk. And so like this, Krishna carried out wonderful leelas, pastimes with his mother and father, Nanda Maharaj and Yasodamai. So after reciting this pastime, Sukadeva Goswami, he glorified Yasodamai and he said, Trayachopanishadbhischa Sankhya Yogaischa Satvataihi Upagiya Mahatmyam Harim Samanyatatmajam. Sukadeva Goswami said, Upagiya Mahatmyam Harim. That Hari, Krishna, the Supreme Lord, he is glorified. Upagiya Mahatmyam. His greatness, his glories are enunciated as, are constantly recited. Upagiya. Upagiya means being sung. So his great glories, his wonderful, super excellent qualities are glorified by great personalities, such as, who are they? Traya Chopanishadbihi. Traya, by all the three Vedas, Krishna is glorified. Upanishadbhischa, even the Upanishads actually glorify Krishna, even though indirectly, but they also glorify Krishna. And not only the Upanishads, Sankhya Yoga, by the process of Sankhya Yoga also, ultimately Krishna only is glorified and worshipped. And apart from all this, Satvatahi, by the great pure devotees, they also constantly sing the glories of Krishna. So that Krishna, who is glorified by great rishis, great devotees, by great spiritualists, and who is glorified by the three Vedas, who is glorified in the Upanishads and the Vedanta Sutras, who is glorified by the process of Sankhya Yoga, that Hari, that Krishna, Sa Amanyata Atmajam. Yasodamai thought that Krishna is just my ordinary child. And so thinking, she was ordering him, where Krishna, open your mouth, let me see whether you have eaten dirt. And she is chastising him. So Sukadeva Goswami, he is such an elevated personality. He is respected even by his own father Vyasadeva, Narada Muni, and all great sages and rishis of his time accepted Sukadeva Goswami as a very exalted sage. And that exalted sage, Sukadeva Goswami, is glorifying Yasodamai. When Parikshit Maharaj heard this, he also could not stop himself. And he immediately said, he expressed his astonishment at the wonderful fortune of Yasodamai and Nanda Maharaj. Nanda Hakim Akarod. So Parikshit Maharaj said, Nanda Hakim Akarod Brahman Shreya Evam Mahodayam. What great pious activities, Shreya Evam Mahodayam, what great pious activities did Nanda Maharaj do? Nanda Hakim Akarod, what great pious activity did Nanda Maharaj do? O Brahmana, O Sukadeva Goswami. Not only Nanda Maharaj, Yashodacha Mahabhaga, the highly fortunate Yashodamai and Nanda Maharaj, what great pious activities did they do? Apau yasyaha stanam harihi. Because that Supreme Lord Hari, Krishna, became their dear son, became their darling son, and he drank the milk of Yashodamai. So, what a great pious activity could they have done to get such a great fortune? In other words, Parikshit Maharaj was saying, no amount of pious activities can elevate us to the position of Nanda Maharaj and Yashodamai, who got Krishna as their son, as their beloved darling son. So, we have to understand that that position of Nanda Maharaj and Yashodamai is highly exalted, revered and worshipped and glorified by great sages, rishis and all the great personalities within this universe. So, if we worship such great personalities who get Krishna as their son and they are able to chastise him, they are able to control him according to their desires, then those personalities, if he takes shelter of them, then Krishna also will become controlled by us. Therefore, the Padma Purana says, Bhuktim Muktim Cha Harihi Dadati. So, Bhuktim Muktim Cha Harihi Dadyad. Krishna, Hari, will give us Bhukti and Mukti. If you want any material enjoyment, any material pleasure, Bhukti, Krishna will give you. Mukti, if you want liberation from this material world, that also Krishna will give you. So, Bhuktim Muktim Cha Harihi Dadyad Yato Anyatra Architam Sevinam. If anybody worships Krishna with an intention to get some material desire or to get liberation, Krishna will readily give it. Bhaktim tu na dadati. But bhakti Krishna will not give. Shri Krishna Rukmini Satyabhama ki. Bhaktim tu na dadatyeva. Krishna does not give bhakti. Why? Yato vasyakari harehe. Because that bhakti, that devotional service, vasyakari harehe, it will bring Krishna under its control. So if somebody becomes a devotee of Krishna, Krishna becomes controlled by that devotee. So therefore, Krishna does not give bhakti. If you approach Krishna directly and worship him with any amount of penances, austerities, and you take up any procedure of dharma, whatever you do, and ask Krishna, give me bhakti to you, Krishna will not give. Why? Because Vasyakari Harehe, if he gives bhakti to somebody, Krishna will become controlled by that person. So Krishna is very careful. He will never give bhakti. So therefore, if you want bhakti, then what you should do? Nandam Mande Yasyalinde. We have to take shelter of a pure devotee who is controlling Krishna. Then that devotee will give us bhakti by which we will be able to control Krishna. So this is the wonderful philosophy of the Bhagavatam. In every other religion in the world, we know God as a supreme controller or the provider of all our maintenance and necessities. But in the Bhagavata Dharma, it is possible to become the father and mother of Krishna and control Krishna, the supreme personality of Godhead. So this is the beauty of the Bhagavata Dharma, the process of Bhakti Yoga. And to be able to come to that position where Krishna comes under our control, the only way is to take shelter of a pure devotee. So therefore, we are all very fortunate that we have got the shelter of Srila Prabhupada, who is a great pure devotee, who can control Krishna. And so therefore, if we accept Srila Prabhupada as our spiritual master and take shelter of his lotus feet and take his instructions as our heart and soul, and Prabhupada as our soul initiating spiritual master, then Prabhupada will give us bhakti and we will be able to control Krishna by that. So this is the great glory of taking shelter of the lotus feet of a pure devotee like Srila Prabhupada. So considering the wonderful gift that Prabhupada is giving us, the ability to be able to control Krishna himself, Yato Vasyakari Harehe, therefore we should take shelter of the lotus feet of Srila Prabhupada we should not get misled by any other person who claims to be a spiritual master, although he may be a devotee. He may also be a devotee. But if you want bhakti by which Krishna becomes controlled, and the kind of bhakti which Krishna does not give anyone, then the only person who can give that is Srila Prabhupada. And so therefore, we should not approach anyone else except Prabhupada as our spiritual master, take shelter of his lotus feet, follow his instructions seriously, chant 16 malas every day, follow 4 regulative principles, read all of Prabhupada's books, and simply by following these very simple and easy to follow instructions of Srila Prabhupada, accepting Prabhupada as our sole guru in our heart, we can go back to Godhead and develop the bhakti, the kind of bhakti, Ananya Bhakti, which can control Krishna himself. Yato Vasyakari Harehe. So therefore, it is important to take shelter of a great pure devotee like Prabhupada, who is glorified even by all the Vedas, Upanishads, and all such great rishis and sages, like it is being mentioned here. Brahma, when he came down, he first glorified Karda Mumuni and Devahuti because they had become the parents of the incarnation of Krishna, Kapila Deva. And so after glorifying them, Brahma has glorified Kapila Deva. So first comes the pure devotee, then comes Krishna. So we follow in the footsteps of Brahma, and we take shelter of Srila Prabhupada's lotus feet and his instructions, and by this we can also develop the kind of bhakti which can bring Krishna under our control. So I'll stop here. If there are any questions or comments, we can discuss.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhu, actually, it is said that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he gives this love of Godhead freely.
Yeah.
So if someone who does not come to Prabhupada directly, we see so many, even in ISKCON, so many, Gaudiya Math also, in Mangalarti court also, Prabhupada was mentioning about this.
Yes.
Of GBC. So if somebody goes other than Prabhupada, or somebody directly approaches Chaitanya Mahaprabhu for love of Godhead, what is the result?
So we have to understand that to get the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also, we have to approach the Guru, the current link in the Parampara. Otherwise, it is not possible. If one is sincere and he approaches Chaitanya Mahaprabhu will guide him to Prabhupada. So as Uddhava says in the 11th canto of the Srimad-Bhagavatam, that Acharya Chaitya Vapusha Swagatim Yanakti. So Krishna, when he sees that a soul, a jiva, is sincere in searching out him, he will direct him to a Chaitya Guru. As Chaitya Guru, he is seated as Chaitya Guru within the heart as Paramatma. He will take him to a Bahya Guru, to an Acharya. He will take him to the right Acharya who can give him the right bhakti. So even if one has not attained the lotus feet of a Uttamadhikari Vaishnava like Srila Prabhupada, then that means that jiva is not yet fortunate enough to receive Krishna's mercy, to receive the dust from the lotus feet of such a pure devotee. Either he is not fortunate enough or he is not sincere enough. So if he is not sincere, he will go to so many other camps. If he is sincere, he will get the shelter of the lotus feet of Srila Prabhupada.
If this shelter, is this shelter only under anyone who is following the Ritvik system, or somebody says, no, Prabhupada, I will read his book, Prabhupada said anybody who reads my book, they will get initiated.
You have to understand that ye yatha mam prapadyante tam tataiva vajamyaham. This is a principle which holds good between Krishna and the jiva, and between the spiritual master and the jiva also. If you accept Srila Prabhupada as simply some Shiksha Guru, somebody who is giving me some instructions, then Prabhupada is not taking responsibility to take you back to Godhead. Prabhupada tells very clearly, if you accept Prabhupada as the Diksha Guru, then Prabhupada takes the responsibility of giving you Uttama Bhakti, Prema Bhakti, and taking you back to Godhead. So, if you really want the Prema Bhakti, then unless you accept Prabhupada as your Diksha Guru, as your delivering Guru, as the Guru who is going to take you back to Godhead and who is going to give you Krishna Prema, you will not get it. If I'm going to Prabhupada and saying, Prabhupada, give me a little knowledge, that's enough. Taking me back to Godhead and give me Krishna Prema, somebody else is taking the responsibility. Prabhupada will say, okay, go ahead. Prabhupada will not, Prabhupada also respects our free will, no. On the other hand, if we approach Prabhupada and say, Prabhupada, you are my only guru, you only have to deliver me, you only have to give me Krishna Prema, then Prabhupada will say, okay, you follow my instructions, I am ready to give you that. So, the point is, if we cannot demand the benefits that come from Srila Prabhupada, the benefits of going back to Godhead, going back to Goloka Vrindavan and achieving Krishna Prema without sufficient surrender. Unless you surrender and accept Prabhupada as your deliverer guru, as your Diksha guru, why will Prabhupada take up that responsibility? It's a two-way contract. It's not that you will keep taking from Prabhupada and not give your surrender to Krishna, to Prabhupada. First you give your surrender to Prabhupada, then Prabhupada will give you prema and he will take you back to Godhead. That is how we have to understand. Okay? We'll stop here. Grantharaj Srimad-Bhagavatam ki jai, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol.